Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Constellation Crew. This one's particularly exciting. We have a lot to talk about today, especially a really cool and interesting astronomical event tonight about Mars and the Moon, but we'll get more into details about that later. But this episode is both joyous and a little sad. Two reasons. One being, this is our last episode for this semester before we take a hiatus and go home for winter break. Yay! Highly needed. I need some sleep. I need some Santa in my life. I need some Christmas hats and Christmas lights. I need some Christmas. Right now, it's kind of sad. Ball State's been doing a pretty good job of keeping me sane with the Christmas lights, though. I'll admit that. It's also kind of sad because we're not going to have Kenya on Constellation Crew next semester.
Yeah.
Sad times. But it's okay because according to Kenya, she is on to bigger and better things in terms of her major. Right, Kenya?
Yes, I'm going to go student teach. So wish me luck.
The best of luck. You're going to do great. You're going to do fabulous.
Exactly.
I have no worries whatsoever. I would be overjoyed if I had children in the future and I found out that they were your teacher. I would have no concerns.
I'd be overjoyed if you were my TA, so already good enough.
All right. So the theme of this episode is kind of the 25 days of Christmas, but 25 days of astronomical events of Christmas and December, all kinds of stuff like that. There's actually a lot going on in December, which is very surprising, but very happy because December is my birthday month. So yay, and I love astronomy. Two things combined into one, best time, and favorite holidays, Christmas. It's all coming together. So it started off with a pretty big bang, actually. With December 1st, we had a little bit of an interesting event with Jupiter, our celestial buddy. Oh no, there we go. He can hang out with me here. We had Jupiter and the moon get a little close. They became neighborly in the sky. Jupiter wanted to say hi to the moon, I guess. Jupiter was particularly close to the moon on December 1st, which was pretty cool. And honestly, an interesting event because sometimes a lot of stars will appear close to the moon because the moon is traveling across the sky. But Jupiter is particularly bright in terms of a planet that you can see, and I often mistake it for stars and stuff until I remember, wow, that's a little too bright to be a star. So, pretty cool event. If you missed it, like I did, I definitely did not see it. It'll happen again in December before the year runs out, so don't worry. It's gonna happen again on the 12th of the 12th. I'm not reading dates correctly. The 28th of December. Oh, goodness gracious. Any of you guys want to be hosts today?
No.
So
Hello, everybody.
to be clear, Jupiter was close to the moon on December 1st, and it'll be close to the moon again on December 28th. Just hanging out, wanted to say hello. We also have that big event coming up tonight with Mars and the moon. So again, Mars and the moon becoming buddies, but in particular this time, Jupiter kind of gets close to the moon many different times throughout the year. At least I've noticed that, aside from December. And sometimes it's close, even though it looks pretty far apart. Mars is gonna get pretty up close and personal with the moon tonight. So we're gonna take a look at that really quick. So we're gonna go a little bit more towards the east. Hey there, moon. And anyone want to guess what that red planet, or red planet? What's that red thing?
Mars.
Great job, Kenya. Yes, it's Mars. So I'm actually going to move time forward just a little bit. So now it's about 7. So I went up 1 hour. We're going to zoom in. Keep in mind that I am using Stellarium to show these visuals, and we at the Planetarium have messed with the settings just a little bit to make it more accurate to the night sky and what you would actually see. However, sometimes making those setting changes can make things a little wonky. So in this case, it's going to show you something very, very similar, but it may not look exactly the same when you look out in the night sky. So keep that in mind. But the general idea is still the same. So I'm just going to hit play. We're going to fast forward just a little bit. So the moon is moving. A little fast. Oh, there it goes. See? Ooh, off screen. We're gonna click on the moon and do this again. So you can see that Mars is kind of going behind the moon there. Cool, right? I didn't even know that was a thing. That was relatively new to me last week. I was like, is that even possible? Of course it is. But I had no idea. Didn't even know that that was a possibility. But it's so cool. If you have a really awesome telescope, or even just a really decent one that you got from maybe Toys R Us when they were still in business, or a nice pair of binoculars, you could see this happen in real time. Which is actually
Total
quite cool.
Marsian eclipse, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, the other day I brought this up in the astronomy class because one of our professors will always ask any comments, questions, or concerns, astronomy related or otherwise, and I'm just like, yeah, there's this thing. And I said specifically that Mars is going to eclipse the moon, which is not right. Not right. And for our viewers, what that means is when I say that Mars is going to eclipse the moon, that means moon is here and Mars goes in front. That cannot happen. That cannot happen. What's really happening is that the moon is going to eclipse Mars like this. So don't pull a Nicolette. Don't do that. So, and saying that to your professor and a classroom full of your peers is a little embarrassing. But mistakes happen. It's okay. That's a really awesome event that I highly recommend you check out. I have no idea when that's going to happen again, and there are times where certain things don't happen for a very, very, very long time ever again in terms of astronomical events. Comets have orbital periods of thousands of years. Solar eclipses, if you stay in one place forever and expect to see a solar eclipse, you probably will not live long enough for that to happen. That's why there is such a thing as solar eclipse chasers. They chase solar eclipses. Thank you, Kyree. So please check that out tonight. The Charles W. Brown Planetarium will be making a Facebook post about it on more details on specific times and stuff like that. So please check out our Facebook page and any forms of social media that we have for more specifics on when this will be. But to start, we started more in the southeast east area, and the moon and Mars were low in the sky, and as the moon started to rise with Mars, they started to do that eclipsing effect. So feel free to check that out. That's not the only thing that's going on. We have some other stuff coming up. So what do we have in the next week or so? I think this is during finals week, Kyree.
Yep. Upcoming real soon is the peak of the Gemini meteor shower. And for those who may not be aware of the word Gemini, the reason this is so different from typical meteor showers is because Gemini meteor showers are actually associated with asteroids and not comets. So instead of what you would typically see, you would actually be seeing what is just dust emitted from an asteroid just going across our own sky. The reason for this is that at December, Earth will be in really close orbit with a certain asteroid that has an orbit that brings itself closer to the sun, which is why it's called 3200 Phaethon. And it was given this name for the son of the sun god Helios. And when it's near the sun in its orbit, it will emit dust, and that's what we will see as our own meteor shower in the sky. And like I said, the Earth will be closer to 3200 Phaethon, but on December 14th, it will be at its closest. The only thing to be wary of is the fact that because it's December, we have a lot of clouds. Even back in November, if you were up for the lunar eclipse, I had a lot of clouds where I was, so I could just barely see the lunar eclipse. And the moon should be in waning gibbous, I believe. And because of that light, it also may make it harder to observe the meteor shower. So really look at the weather report and try to plan ahead.
That makes sense.
You will...
Okay, yeah, because today until tomorrow evening-ish or tomorrow morning-ish. December 8th is technically full moon time. That's when the full moon will happen, is December 8th. So December 7th, tonight, it's a waxing gibbous. So I believe you're correct. It'll be a waning gibbous moon around that time, which is cool. So keep an eye out for that. And Kyree is not joking about the clouds. For our Muncie usuals who are watching Constellation Crew now, you probably noticed the fog this morning, and I was highly concerned that the thing was going to pop out and get me or something crazy like that, because the fog was thick. I've never... The common Midwestern phrase is, thick as pea soup, and I never understood that. It was thick as pea soup today. I could not see a thing this morning. But that's kind of the problem sometimes with astronomy. As cool as it is, we are still affected by Earth's weather and Earth's atmosphere, so it can make it somewhat difficult to observe things. However, I will personally be crossing my fingers for a good weather favor. So, I actually would like to go take a look at Gemini just really quickly, so I'm going to pop up the search window here. I'm in the box this time. Okay. Because sometimes, as my crew members know, I'll start typing and I break things. So, yeah, hi Taurus the Bull. So Taurus the Bull is here. But this is Gemini, the twins. So I'm actually going to go back a little, because for some reason the stars aren't showing up well. Wait a minute. I don't think the stars are here at all. There they are! I hit a button and they're here. Hi, stars. Pretty stars. Now that we've figured out that problem. So yeah, here's Gemini the twins. There's a lot that you can talk about with Gemini here, but I just wanted to point that out. So if you know where Orion the Hunter is, Orion is really easy to spot, particularly around 1 a.m. Muncie time. He is right in the south that morning, and if you can find Orion and his belt, you can use Betelgeuse to find the twins. Awesome. I believe this is 1 in the morning, which is quite odd, because that doesn't coincide with the times that we were talking about earlier with the Mars and the Moon, but don't worry, we're going to get that all sorted out later today on social media. Thank you, Kyree. That was very interesting. So, recap, that's on December 14th, the second to last day of finals week. Yay!
Oh, I'm so ready.
Maybe something to look forward to. Oh, and for our viewers, I would like to mention that sometimes meteor showers are quite hard to see when you are near a very busy city where the lights are bright and beautiful. Everyone loves Las Vegas, everyone loves Chicago, but sometimes those lights are really obnoxious when it comes to looking up at the sky and looking at stars and stuff like that. And meteor showers can be particularly fainter than most of the stuff that we talk about on the show, like planets and stars and such. So don't be afraid if you don't see anything. That's okay. It's quite common, actually. You'll want to try to find a very, very dark location, very, very far away from big cities and such like that, and kind of be out there about an hour before the meteor shower typically starts so that your eyes can get used to the dark and all kinds of parameters in terms of looking at meteor showers. So, but of course, we would still like to let you know when these things go on, because if you do have the means to be able to find a very dark location and stay out relatively late, it's a beautiful sight to see, and I highly recommend. So thank you, Kyree.
Don't be too pressured if you do miss it. We will be near its orbit for the first 3 weeks of December. It's just that it'll be at its peak when we'll be closest to 3200 Pantheon.
Yeah.
At December 14th.
Awesome. So next up on our list is actually a pretty significant event, and I think it's significant after learning about it in college. I always was under the impression that the seasons were either determined by weather, sort of, or they were determined by where the planet was in its orbit around the sun. Not entirely true. The first one in particular is a little bit wonky when you live in the Midwest. My Midwestern viewers will very much understand that sometimes it'll be 85 degrees in the middle of winter, and then it'll just plummet to -20 the next day, and you have no idea why. And you're just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then don't forget when it's snowing in 10 minutes, raining in 10 minutes, sunny in 10 minutes, and then back to snowing.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. However, that being said, the weather is not a good indication of what season it is. But I believe Kenya can tell us what a good condition or parameter. Can't think of the right word. You can take it away, Kenya. You got it.
All right. All right. So, I'm talking about the winter solstice. This is the shortest day of the year.
Ooh.
So this year it's on December 21st, and this is actually the official start of winter for us in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's a little bit later than what most people think. So this happens, this happens when the Earth is tilted away from the sun, and that makes the path the sun takes in the sky very short. So if we have like the least amount of daytime, that means we also have really long nights in the winter. And a lot of people don't like that, but it is perfect for stargazing. So the longer you have in the night, the longer you can look at stars.
Yeah, that's really fun. What date was that specifically? Did you mention that, Kenya?
Yeah, it's December 21st. So, right?
Wow. Yeah, that is way later. Exactly. Yeah, that's very interesting. That really makes sense, because if you ever watch a Christmas movie when you were a kid, you always, or at least I did, always hoped and asked for Mother Nature to give you a snowy white Christmas, because you see it in the movies, and I never got a snowy white Christmas. Probably because Midwestern weather is all over the place to begin with, and second of all, winter doesn't really start until December 21st, and then all of a sudden it's Christmas. It only gives Mother Nature 4 days to figure this out and make it work.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I found out it was that late in December. I thought it was like in November or something.
Right, because right around then in the Midwest to begin with, unless something very special happens, it typically starts to get cold. In Muncie, it just
Really
plummeted in November. It was ridiculous. I was fine.
We had a couple snow days.
Yeah, it was weird. And it snowed when I was home. And I was like, what the heck is going on with Muncie, man? And I'm further north. I'm from Illinois, and I live all the way in the corner by Lake Michigan. So the fact that Muncie was getting snow, which is way further south, 4.5 hours south, I was like, what's happening? And it was good weather by me. What? Okay. So yeah, very interesting. Astronomy is a wonder. But that being said, the be-all end-all, apparently it being cold does not mean that it's wintertime. Just saying. Moving on, we also have another thing going on, again with a planet just really invading the moon's personal space, but apparently the moon really enjoys it because it happens often, except this time it's not Jupiter, it's one of my favorites. It's Saturn! This particular celestial buddy is actually quite funny because the way they designed it, the rings are really cute, but I'm just like, solar shades. I don't want to see the sun. And it's reflective, so like it's so yes. Anyway, ooh, very blurry. Come on, camera, you can do it. Did not like me very much doing that, so I won't bring Saturn back up again. Apologies. So Saturn is going to be relatively close to the moon, so I'm actually going to change that date. And I didn't mention the date. It is Christmas night. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back in time. Sorry for our viewers if you were like, what the heck is the sky doing? Don't worry. I have full control over it. So, there's the moon. So then, let's see. Oops, I turned off the planets. Well, since I turned off the planets, there is Saturn in Capricornus. Oh, that makes sense. The reason why I got excited is because that is a zodiac constellation, and that is my zodiac sign. So that makes a lot of sense. But also keep in mind that you might have noticed that this object here is a little odd. That's the moon. So the problem with me saying that Saturn is going to be close to the moon on Christmas Day or Christmas evening is because new moon happens on December 23rd. However, if you do see like a little sliver, or sorry, this might be a little gross, but I find it funny, or a little toenail in the sky, and you see a bright object right around there, you will be seeing Saturn relatively close to the moon, which is actually kind of cool. And don't worry, Capricornus is a particularly fainter constellation, so you won't be obstructed by any of the Capricornus stars. So if you see a bright object next to the moon, most likely it's Saturn, as long as it's Christmas night. And I love that the astronomical gods, or astronomical beings, astronomy has given me a Saturn-related event on Christmas night, when the next day is my birthday. I'm so excited. Anyway, so that being said, our little toenail in the sky, I have just recently been informed that our little toenail in the sky is actually a waxing crescent. To be more specific, it is a waxing crescent, which makes sense. Crescent moon, I always said that the crescent moon looked exactly like I said, and I'm going to stop saying what I said because it's particularly gross, so I'm going to stop saying it now. But aside from that, overall, these are the 25 days of Christmas, or the 25 days of astronomical events in Christmas. You'll start to notice that the sky looks particularly different now compared to when we first started at the beginning of the semester. That's because we might have said these are winter constellations or these are summer constellations. So now certain constellations are going to be rising earlier in the evening so you can see them better. Because sometimes we might have said, oh, check out Orion at 1 a.m. earlier in the semester. But now Orion's up just after sunset. And we have some particular constellations to talk about. So I am actually going to go north really quick and turn it over to Kenya. I'm going to go as slow as possible.
All right. So the first constellation we'll talk about is Cassiopeia. So in Greek mythology, Cassiopeia is Andromeda's mother, and she is the wife of King Cepheus. Did I say that right? King Cepheus?
Yes, you did.
Okay, great. So Cassiopeia is highest in the sky during this time, during winter. So in order to find her constellation, you can usually find the shape of a W, an E, M, or 3, depending on where she is in the sky. But the brightest stars, as you can see on the screen, are what make up those shapes where you can find her. She is circumpolar, so she doesn't really rise or set here in Muncie. And that, I don't know why exactly, but I think Nicolette can tell you more about that.
Yeah. So everyone knows Polaris, the North Star, and that is, and we also know that Earth has an axis that it spins on, right? So that axis points to the North Star. That North Pole points to the North Star. So while it's doing that, the sky kind of rotates around that point, kind of goes in a circle. I know that's kind of odd to think about, but based on our location, Cassiopeia kind of goes around in a circle just like that. Goes around in a circle in the sky. And it's like a relatively big circle. So since Cassiopeia is not a part of the North Star at all, the whole constellation moves. So like, let's say my hand is or like my finger, it goes around. Where if you looked at the Little Dipper and Polaris, the North Star is fixed and hardly moves at all in a circle. It just it might wobble just a little, but it stays right in the middle. And then the Little Dipper kind of goes around just like a clock. But Cassiopeia, the whole thing will go around in a circle. But that is based on our location in the Northern Hemisphere, just like Kenya said. So Cassiopeia is not necessarily circumpolar in the South. I don't even know if they can see it in the Southern Hemisphere. Now, yeah, I said South. I meant Southern Hemisphere. I'm going to make that very clear. Southern Hemisphere. So that is very interesting, and I can bring up the constellation art back. And quick, briefly, so this is Andromeda's mom. There's a running joke that she was pretty mean to her daughter in the myth, and her punishment is to forever go around in a circle, and sometimes her constellation art is upside down for that consequence. So this is on December 25th. I wonder if things go different. Oh, look, she moved. Oh, look at that. See, this is exactly what I mean by circumpolar. See, she's moving around in a circle. I'm trying to go back to... Oops, a little bright. There we go. So this is about tonight again. Back here in Muncie tonight. But thank you, Kenya. That was very interesting.
You're welcome.
Up next is another particular constellation. It's very odd. First of all, the name itself is fantastic, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce it because it is not in English. So I'm going to do my best. Camelparlacy? Nope. That is not it. Camelopardalcy. Close. Please take my pronunciation with a grain of salt. It is a very interesting word. And I'm actually going to click in this space here. Crew, do you see anything here where my mouse is? Anything at all? No. As suspected, this constellation is particularly faint. So I'm going to just click and hit a button. Look at that. And yes, this constellation is a giraffe. This brings a lot of joy here at the Planetarium, because a lot of times when we're just showing off the constellation art, we're not even talking about this constellation in particular in the dome, we're just showing off the art in general and how beautiful it is, because gotta give those artists their credit. And a lot of the kiddos will say, oh my gosh, there's a giraffe! And they're just so excited. So of course we have to give the giraffe some attention, and we'll say, oh, what do you think his name is? And without fail, it's either George or Jeffrey. The most common screamed name, Jeffrey! Just but I particularly like George. So even his name might be hard to pronounce, and I will try my best to pronounce it for the remainder of the video, but I will be calling him George in my head. So you might have, when I was trying to pronounce it, heard a particular word, camel. That makes sense, because the whole name of this constellation is the Latin derivation of the Greek word for giraffe. So what that means is that it's the Latin version of the Greek word for giraffe. So it went from Greek to Latin. But when you break down the word for giraffe in Greek, it's kind of a combination of two words. One being kamelis, which is camel in Greek. Funny. And then pardalis, which is leopard. And you put two and two together, the Greeks said that they called the word for a giraffe a camel leopard because it had a particularly long neck, just like a camel, and it had spots on it like a leopard. Really awesome observations, putting two and two together. I like it, especially when you see a giraffe for the first time. If you know where Greece is, nowhere near a giraffe. Near Africa, but nowhere near a giraffe. Nowhere near a giraffe. So when they saw a giraffe for the first time, I would make that assumption as well. I would also be quite scared. My sister loves giraffes. They're her favorite animal. I think they're cute. If they got a little too close to me, I'd be a little scared. I'd be a little scared. They're also, like, you see them in cartoons, right? They always like to dramatize the long neck effect, and like a giraffe will always like curly cue itself and be like, hi there. I'm like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I have a personal space bubble. Thank you very much. Anyway, funniness aside, that is why its name is so interesting. So
Camelopardus.
Yes, camelopardus. Yes?
Camelopardalis.
Camelopardalis. Thank you, Kyree. Jeez,
No
you
problem.
can say it better than I can. Camelopardalis.
Or just call it a leopard camel.
Camel leopard. I thought about it. However, even though I find it very funny, it is a word that is used. So I don't want to mock the word per se, right? Because even though it's not in my language. But,
Yes.
Camelopardalis. Yes? No. Anyway. So this particular giraffe constellation is obviously very hard to see. I brought up its constellation art and asked the crew if they saw anything on purpose, because the Greeks, who usually kept record of all of the astronomical objects and stuff that they have found, which is why a lot of constellations of our 88 official have Greek mythologies connected to them, they kept record of a lot of astronomical events. And this one in particular, they thought this part of the sky was completely empty. They did not see this giraffe constellation, which makes some sense. And a lot of times in astronomy, sometimes you'll point your telescope at what you think is an empty place in the sky, and it is the exact opposite. A lot of new James Webb Space Telescope images are a lot like that. A lot of Hubble images are like that, where they're just like, hey, let's just point it over here where we think there's nothing over here and see what happens, and it's just epic. Anyway, so that's kind of what's going on here. A lot of the stars are particularly faint. So in astronomy, there is such a thing as a magnitude scale. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's the exact opposite of how you would think numbers would be. Something is really, really bright when it's a negative number, and something is faint when it's a positive number. So if you have something that is a magnitude of 1 and a magnitude of 2, the magnitude 1 object is brighter than the magnitude 2 object, because you're going backwards. So in this particular instance, our eyes can only see a certain level of dimness, a certain number, and these stars are dimmer than that typically on a good day. So unless you are in a super, super dark location and have pristine vision, aside from genetic or environmental effects, it would be really hard still to see this constellation. However, we have to talk about George. You know, we always name George in the constellation, in the planetarium, but we never really talk about who George is. Well, now we know. So, that is my constellation.
Yeah. I also really still like that word. It rolls off the tongue nice.
Well, you know how to say it so nicely. I still am having a very hard time.
I can't say it at all. So you're both doing better than me.
See, we both have our different strengths, like me not being able to see anything in the Pleiades, if you remember from last episode.
It's all good. That's why we're a crew. We're in this together. High School Musical style. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Not gonna
One more
break it.
episode.
But that's High School Musical, though. We're in college. Anyway. Just
College
kidding.
musical.
College the Musical. Someone's got to write that. Viewers, someone's got to write that. I'll go see it. You let me know. Put it in the comments. I will definitely come see that. I would
I'll be
like
your
authentic
first buyer.
crying, and I would like authentic crying though. Okay, because college is hard. We have one more constellation to show you all before we head out. I believe Kyree is going to be talking about it, and he is particularly excited.
Yes. So the constellation that we will be looking at is more in our east to southeast sky. This is a constellation I can say I fought tooth and nail for.
Yeah.
But we are currently looking at Cetus, known as the whale in English. We love our whales here.
Yeah. Woo.
Honestly, whales is like easily one of my top 3 aquatic related animals, but I just really wanted to do this one, mainly because it's not too much to say about it, but this Cetus was a sea monster that Perseus and Heracles had to slay, and it's also in that general region of the sky where there's a lot of water related constellations such as Eridanus, Pisces, and even Aquarius.
No, that makes sense. A lot of sailors used astronomy, or rather constellations in the night sky, the stars, to navigate at night. Because I don't know if any of you all have ever had the pleasure of being in the middle of the ocean when it's dark out and the moon is new moon. It is dark. It is so dark. It is so dark it's scary. So I do not recommend if you are like me and are very scared of the dark. Scared of the dark, but as an astronomer, question mark. Anyway. But yeah, that makes sense why there's some water-related ones. So, anything else in particularly special? Aside from the fact that for some reason it looks like a sea monster in here, but in other forms of art it's a whale.
Yeah, I think it mainly takes that art because of the Greek mythology related to it, but I think it really looks cool. It's just like a whale dragon type of mix, and I think it's really interesting. Unfortunately, like I said, there's not insanely too much to talk about Cetus, but the constellation itself, I can't admit, as you see right now, does sort of look like a whale. You can see like the blowhole, the body, the super long tail. But to me, it kind of looks like it should have been the other way, but because of how they have it here and how they decided to have it, it's a bit different.
Yeah, Stellarium has some interesting art, and in particular, they connect the lines very interestingly. I really like the website skymaps.com. That's where you can get a sky map of the month, so you know what constellations will be up in the sky for you during those months, because the sky is constantly changing, as we have talked about before. So I love the way that they draw the line parts of constellations. So I'm not sure how this will differ from sky maps at all, but I did not like the way they drew line-wise Capricornus in this program. I was very confused because I associate Capricornus as a scone shape. If you've ever seen a scone, it's a rounded triangle. So instead of it being super pointy, it's just rounded and it's a little smooshed, just a little. And it looks like a cute little delicious, delectable triangle, and Capricornus is very much the same shape. And in Stellarium, they do not draw it that way. But I brought up the lines just to see if there were any particularly bright stars in this constellation for anyone to notice. And there's apparently this one and this one over here. So I'm going to get rid of the art for a second. Oop. How about this? Yay, everything. So I guess I brought it back because I clicked. Okay, now that it's gone this time. It's just apparently these two stars are involved. If you are in a darker location, you might see some more, so don't fret if you see more than just these two. There's most likely are more, but we add light pollution in this simulation to simulate, again, a particularly accurate night sky. Well, and with that, that is the 25 days of an astronomical December Christmas. Woohoo! So much stuff. I'm so excited. As a reminder, once again, because this is so cool, please don't forget the Mars and Moon thing. It's a thing. It's tonight. It's tonight. Keep an eye on our Facebook pages at the Planetarium and our Instagram. We have tons of forms of social media where we are going to be posting about it, and we're going to be talking about it a lot. So if you need more information about it, please check out our social media and don't miss it. Get out your Toys R Us telescope. Get out your binoculars that you haven't used since your son was in Boy Scouts and girl was in Girl Scouts. Anything you got to take a look. Trust me, it's
That's just a good activity.
I might even try to convince Bob to take out a telescope because I did that last time. Something significant happened. However, it's the week before finals week. I don't know if I have time for that. Anything else, crew?
Nothing too much for me. Go check out the whale.
Yes, check out the whale. For our viewers, if you are particularly interested, whales did have a significant, influence on sea monsters. I would take a look at that if you are interested in sea creatures and how some of those sea creatures came to be. Whales are a significant influence on that and how they interact in the wild. So, have fun on Google. But with that being said, remember to look up at the night sky, especially tonight. Please and thank you. And I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful day after Christmas, because it's my birthday. Just all around happy holidays. If you don't celebrate Christmas, happy holidays. And thank you so much for joining us for the fall semester. And we will see all of you lovelies in the spring. Bye, guys.